Welcome to another Silverbird Selection game review. This time we're looking at a game that was originally released by Firebird software in 1985 in some packaging that's not like any other packaging they did. And then it was re-released in the Silver Range packaging in 1986. It is Collapse. There you can see the second range packaging. And this is a pretty common game to find, in fact very common. You'll find plenty of copies on eBay if you want to buy yourself a copy. My copy came as part of a bundle some years ago and cost me just 80 pence. So let's see if it's worth that 80 pence, shall we? Okay, so as I just mentioned in the intro, this game was originally released in some other packaging. Now it wasn't the boring white and red with a screenshot on the front packaging. It was actually quite a unique bit of packaging, but let's take a look at it on the screen here to the left. It's absolutely awful. It's a really terrible drawing, but there is a significant difference between that packaging and this packaging, the second wave Silver Range packaging, and that's the creature on the front of it. On the original packaging, it looks like a mole, and it is a mole in fact, because that's what it says in the original packaging instructions as well. But on this second wave packaging, as you can see, it's a bear. So we've got this rather comical looking bear tumbling with some kind of bricks and things in the background, and a nice logo at the bottom there, Collapse. So it's not a bad front cover, but it's not actually very representative of the character in the game. So there's the spine, which has just got Collapse on it as well, and then we get to the back cover, and there's a couple of things to note here. Screenshots as always, a couple of those. The Firebird logo is just in white, which I think is quite unusual. It usually would be in red, and also it's got no description about the game. Now I don't know if that's just a range or a period of time where they printed this packaging and it had no details on the back and they actually corrected that later. I'd be interested if anyone else has got a copy of the game to know whether that's the case, but certainly on this copy, nothing on the back at all about what the game's about. Okay, so moving inside, and it's the usual stuff. We've got the list of games from the Silver Range, which is fairly limited at this point, and the Silver Club stuff as well. So let's get on to the instructions, and as you can see it says Collapse, copyright Nalin Sharma 1985, and it tells you about the game. It tells you about Zen. Zen is the character you're playing. It doesn't mention that Zen is a mole in this version of the packaging, possibly because they put a bear on the front of it, but yeah, he's definitely a mole, and you'll see that when the game starts. So that tells you what you're supposed to do in the game. Then there's some loading instructions, and then there's actually how to play it. And it's quite complicated based on these instructions. So you've got a set of controls when you're not using magic, and a set of controls when you are using magic, and lots of other information as well, which I'm not going to go into any great detail about here. We'll wait till the game's loaded. A quick look at the loading screen then. As you can see, nothing too spectacular. It says Collapse several times over in a sort of 3D style writing, and we've got the mole, Zen as his name is, bright yellow in the middle, just throwing the letters around, and the Firebird logo. Pretty cute I suppose, but nothing too spectacular. Okay, here's the title screen. As you can see it says Collapse at the top, and those letters are bouncing up and down the screen, collapsing and then going back to the top I suppose. You also get a sort of a demo. I mean, your player character doesn't move around on the demo screen, but it does show you sort of what you've got to do in terms of making these rods collapse together to finish a screen. Also on the title screen you can see a high score table, just 3 entries in there, several game options including the option to choose up to 4 players, and which sector you start in as well. Back we are to a demo of another screen. And also you can see the name of the developer there, Nalin Sharma, at the bottom, and the score readout across the top. It's quite an arcade style presentation, I would say, of the title screen with the demo and the high score table and everything. So let's get on with actually playing the game. So I'm just going to leave the options as they are and press F1 to start. So you play the mole, Zen, definitely not a bear. And he's walking around at the bottom of the screen at the moment. He's the yellow guy. So what he can do in this form when he's yellow coloured is basically walk around and jump. And the idea is you've got to get all these grey rods in the middle and turn them blue by walking over them, and then flip them all against each other to make them all collapse. Hence the name of the game. But you can't get close to them in your yellow form, as I'll show here. I drop down here. basically you can't get across. But when you press fire, you activate magic mode, and the first thing you can do in magic mode is walk across these gaps. You can also drop magic dust to trap some of the enemies. This allows you to get to the area where you need to colour these things in blue, as you can see. And the other thing you can do in the magic mode is actually create platforms. As you can see, I've created some around myself there, for no apparent reason in this particular case, but I just wanted to demonstrate it. So yeah, that's how you progress through the level. It takes a little bit of time to work all that out. Oops, I've done that wrong. So yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get your head around it, but once you do it, it's fairly intuitive, I would say. I've just got the one left to get. And then when you're ready to activate these rods, I suppose you'd call them, then you need to stand in whichever place you want to start them from, like this. Go into magic mode and then push against the rod, and as you'll see, the rods start to collapse against each other. Now if you get them all in one go, you get a nice bonus as well, and basically all your remaining time is added to your score, and you move on to the next level, which is more of the same. And that's pretty much it. It's one of those games where it takes a little bit of time to understand exactly what you're supposed to be doing, but once you do, it's fairly straightforward, and it's just about trying to get as high a score as you can. As well as being able to walk through the rods, you can also push down when you're over the top of them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As I've said, there's not really much more to say about the game in terms of how the gameplay works, so it's just about trying to get as good a score as possible, trying to last long enough not to get killed by the enemies or run out of time. You can collect these diamonds, by the way, for bonus time as well, so if your time is running low you can try and get some of those. So I'm nearly there with this level as well. It does get a little bit harder as time progresses. Okay, so I've got them all. I don't think I'm going to be able to collapse them all in one go here, but let's give it a go. Let's start randomly from here and see what happens. There we go. Off they go. Nope, that didn't work. Not for all of them anyway, so let's do this side now as well. Oh, they're going below me. So let's do that one as well. Let's get two lots going at once. There we go, that's got them all. Plenty of time bonus, and we'll move on to the next screen. So, gameplay discussed, let's talk about the graphical side. They're not great graphics, they're very of the time, sort of mid 80s. In fact, they're probably not even that good for mid 80s when you think about it. The main sprite's quite cute, but it's only a single colour. The enemies have got several colours, but they're fairly bland, sort of thing you'd expect in arcade games, sort of from the Pac-Man era. Nothing too imaginative. They don't really cause that much trouble. You can just drop this magic dust which will trap them, and you can walk over them and get some points. Otherwise, when they run into you, you lose 100 time units every time they hit you, so we don't obviously want that to happen too often. That didn't go too well. Sounds, again, very sort of simplistic arcade game style sounds for the most part. Nothing really to write home about. Just a sort of throbbing background noise which is created by the aliens, and a kind of jumping sound as well made by your character. Nearly there again with this one. So let's get it going and see what happens this time. Looks like it's going through most of it here. Basically, I think you can get them all to collapse all in one go, as long as there aren't any of these extra platforms in the way. If they are, then I think that causes a problem there. You can see if that had rotated all the way around, it probably wouldn't have caused that problem. Nearly there. Oh. It's getting very frantic sounding. One thing I'm not sure if I mentioned, and apologies if I have already and I've forgotten, is that you can only change the platforms from grey to blue when you're in the non-magic mode. So that does cause a problem with you, as you've seen by now, just kind of dropping down the screen, having to start again, flipping between the different modes. But I'm getting there. And the other thing I don't think I've shown yet is that you don't have to wait to colour them all blue before you start to flip them. You can do that anytime, as you can see. Oh dear, I fell down. So there's not really much more to say about the game. I'm just going to finish this level off. Oh, I've run out of time and died, so I've lost a life. That's a bit unfortunate, because I was right near the end of collapsing everything then. I wasn't paying any attention to how much time I had left. Clearly, these guys were running into me a little bit too often. So, as you'd expect, it has got slightly more difficult as we've moved along. Not saying a lot in this review, it's fair to say. I think that probably tells you something about the game, in as much as I'm quite hooked by it. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. It's actually just my kind of game. I love a high score challenge game. I like an arcade puzzle type game as well. So yeah, this one's actually really quite an enjoyable one for me. If only I could get all these things collapsed in a good order. That one's doing quite well. There we go, that's what we want. That's got most of them. Let's just head over here. See if we can get the remainder there. Oh, it's looking good. Just a couple left. There we go. Job done. So I'm over 10,000 points, which is giving me an extra life. These guys are very familiar. These aliens look like the aliens from Space Panic, or various other names it was known by, Monsters on the BBC Micro, for example. So it's definitely taking influence from sort of classic arcade games of the early 80s, I would say. Even though it was a mid-80s game where there was a lot more complex games going on, this is a pure arcade-style game with a pretty reasonable challenge. It's not that difficult, I don't think. It's quite easy to get your head around. And avoiding the monsters is not too difficult, I would say. So yeah, I'll crack on and see how I get on. I don't think you really need to see me play too many more levels of this, but I may as well carry on. I just probably won't show it all on the video. So I've moved on to level 6, and this one is a bit of an epic to say the least. One difference here is you don't have to create too many platforms to get going. There's loads of places where you can start colouring them in without having to mess around switching between the different modes. So that's quite good. In fact, actually, my best option here would be just to head back this way. But I'm a bit worried about the time limit on this one, because I think I definitely have to stock up on some extra time. There we go, that's helped. No, I immediately lost it by running into that thing. Here you've got to make sure you place some of the platforms in the right place so that you can then go along and call them in without having to go backtracking backwards and forwards too much, I think. That didn't go too badly. I think I'm going to actually kick off some of these going, because it could take a while just to actually collapse everything. Well, that went alright. That didn't go so well. Okay, I've still got 500 time left, so it's not going too badly. Let's get rid of those. No, let them go the way I wanted it to either. Let's try that. So we're nearly there, but I am starting to run out of time. So let's just get rid of these 3 as well. And then all I've got to do is colour these last few in. Hopefully I'm going to make it. Oh no. We're going to do it. 2 left. There we go. That was a bit edgy, but not too bad in the end. So here we go with another level, which again looks quite complicated. So I'll just continue on again. You don't need to watch me playing too much of this. I am finding it fairly easy, possibly because I've played it a few times to get to grips with the controls and the gameplay mechanics, which do take a bit of getting used to. I would definitely say you might be put off by this if you play it for the first time because of the convoluted control mechanism, but once you get to grips with it, I do think it's a pretty good game. In fact, a very good game, I would say. Not great in terms of the graphics, but the actual gameplay is really quite addictive. I'm running low on time now, and that's some more gone. I really need to try and trap more of these guys with the magic dust. Oh no, this guy's just destroying me here. And there we go, my time's run out. That's it, game over, but not a bad run. Just put my name in. Classic arcade high score table style. There we go. Top score 21,799. No, 779, sorry. Okay, so enough talk about the game, although I didn't do much talking. I was well aware there that I wasn't really talking, mostly playing, which is a good sign really. If I can't think of anything to say about it and I'm just transfixed with actually playing it, that puts it above some of the other games for sure. So let's go through the review scores. Firstly, the packaging. I'm going to give just 5 out of 10. Wasn't very good. It had a bear on the front instead of a mole. It had nothing on the back cover in terms of text, and the instructions were very convoluted, which I guess was necessary. But they didn't really give you much background about what to do in the game. It was more just how to play it rather than what the aim of it was. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for the packaging. Presentation though I think is really good. You've got this arcade style title screen, you've got the demo, you've got the game options for starting on different levels and also having up to 4 players. So excellent presentation. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Graphics though, pretty average. For 1985 there was definitely a lot better graphics on the Commodore 64, so I'm just going to give them 5 out of 10. Sound is also pretty simplistic, very much arcade style sound, but not much to write home about, so 4 out of 10 for the sound. And finally, playability, I'm going to give 8 out of 10. I thought it was an excellent game. It's addictive. Does take a little bit of getting used to in terms of how to play the game with the gameplay mechanics and the controls. And once you get on top of those, it's a really addictive sort of a puzzle game, I suppose, but with plenty of arcade style action in as well. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for the playability, which gives it an overall score of 7.1, and I would say it's definitely worth the $199 asking price. If you've ever played Collapse, then let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and that'll do for another game review. Well, that was rather an enjoyable game. That one's out of the way, so let's get on with the usual thing where you help me choose a game to play in a future video by voting from one of 2 game choices. And the choices this time are themed to space exploration. The games are either Caverns of Ereban or Zone Ranger. So let me know in the comments which of those 2 games you'd like me to play. I'll play that in a future video. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions or comments about Collapse. And I'll be back with another game review video very soon. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.